Hello, this is Winston Cunningham. It is September the 15th in 2025. And I'd like to talk about the sanctity of life. I got a couple of stories concerning wasps. Now, I had a lot of experience growing up with wasps. I remember painting the side of a house when I was a teenager, our house at home out in the country. And I took down a wasp nest. Well, I didn't actually. Yeah, I took down a small wasp nest up in the eave of edge of the roof of the house. And I thought that was it. But obviously there was a bigger group inside the attic in the ceiling that next time I got up there to paint, they come out and said hello about the head and face several times. And so I needed to finish painting the side of the house, but every time I went around, now anybody else could walk around the edge of the house and they wouldn't bother them. But as soon as I come around that corner of the house, that side of the house, here they come. So that told me that they had a way to communicate with each other at least. And then fast forward to, that was when I was a teenager, and when I was studying at School of Metaphysics, I was the director of a school in Memphis. I think it was 1988. And it was a summer day, and I was outside, and I was by myself, and wasn't much going on at that moment. But there was a wasp right at the corner of the house, and so I decided I would just try to establish some sort of communication. So I started directing my attention to where I wanted the wasp to go, and he started to follow. And that was a big thing for me because I knew that they would follow, and I already knew that animals and insect, I guess is a sort of an animal, would follow mental direction. And I heard him talk about it at the college property. They had some goats and a lot of cows and so forth. But I remember one person telling me that, I think it was my teacher, she had been at the college for a while, about a year at a time, I think. And she said that you could just hold the picture in your mind of where you wanted to kind of go and start walking that way, and they would follow you. So those things just stuck in my mind. But now fast forward to a few years after I was through with my studies at School of Metaphysics, and I was at home and where I lived in Tennessee, one part of Nashville, Antioch actually. There was a wasp that was stuck between stuck behind the glass window, and there was a screen, so there's no way I could let the wasp out without letting him in. So, not knowing what else to do, I had some insect spray, and so I sprayed him. But here's where all of my concentration exercises kind of kicked into play at that moment. I witnessed this wasp dying. It was kind of blown up in my mind, at least from the way an ant would be blown up, gigantic creature, for the movies. it was kind of like that. But I could hear this wasp gasping for breath. I could hear him dying. And that affected me as much as if it was a person dying. And I wasn't expecting that. So from that moment on, anytime there's a creature of any kind in my space, I will do what it takes I'll try to catch them safely and then let them outside. And I'll only kill even an insect when it comes down to it, will it him or me? And that's my experience is telling me that they're not invading my space. In their mind, if they have one, I'm invading theirs. Or they're operating from a fight or flight syndrome. And if me being in their space is a threat, then is when they attack. But that's all. They don't come looking for me. But I since that time, that experience was witnessing that wasp dying was a big thing for me, because I do believe that there's a purpose for each living thing, whether it be insect, animal, plant, whatever has life, and everything has life, I think, even though it's an inanimate object. There's life going on inside that's so small we can't see. But I do believe that, or I approach it this way, that every form of life has as much a right to be as I do. Just because I don't know their purpose doesn't mean they don't have one. I believe every living thing has a specific purpose. And the more since that time, this was in the 90s somewhere, since that time I have developed a very healthy respect for any living creature. I'll open the door and let a fly out rather than swat it. That's how serious that I take this. Because if I believe that if I can respect all other forms of life, then I will have greater respect for my own. And for the last few years especially tuned into what my purpose is for this lifetime and pursuing that. And so, as a part of that, I want to make room for the purpose of everyone else and everything else that has a right to be. I think the more we can respect every person, place, or thing, the more we can respect ourselves. And the more we respect ourselves, I think the more we can respect other person, places, or things. So we're all in this together. And it would be nice if more people could see that. Because worldwide there's a struggle going on of one-upmanship. George Carlin had a funny way of putting that. I won't repeat his words here. But look up his listen to some of his talks. They're pretty interesting about his observations about the way things are. But I have my own observations, and I'm more and more, I'm getting more focused on my particular purpose, which is not to be the best or the greatest. Jesus said, if you want to be the greatest, first be the least. And so I look for opportunities where I can aid someone. Help is a different story, because it's like if you teach someone, if you give someone a fish, you can feed them one time. If you show them how to fish, then they can feed themselves forever. So I like to take that approach, and I'm cautious to not give a person, place, or thing an excuse to not be responsible. It is in being responsible that we progress. And responsible means more than just paying your bills and keeping the laws. And that's important, but that's not all it is. To respect what I do, regardless of what someone thinks about it, or where a group of people think about it. I am responsible for what I said I would do when I got into this physical body. And so that's what I'm working with. It's kind of like in a middle ground. I'm not the lowest that I have been. I'm not the highest that I can be. But I'm focused on where I am. The wasp, things come from a strange, one of my first experiences with wasps was when we had a sweet gum tree out in the yard, and and my brother, about 3 years older than me, and I was young enough and dumb enough to do whatever he asked. I was sitting on a limb, and he said, hey, there was a wasp nest on the end of the limb out there. He said, well, throw a sweet gum ball in there and see what happens. And it sounded innocent enough to me. But the wasp didn't take it that way. I mean, they stung me from here up everywhere they could find. Because they didn't like that disturbance, and I was disturbing their peace, not acknowledging their purpose. Of course, at that age, I hadn't given much thought to these things. But at this age, I am giving much thought to these things. The sanctity of life. Respect. Respect is earned. And respect, we all came in with respect. So if we can just honor that, and that's what I'm trying to do, is honor being respectful to each person, place, or thing. I go to the YMCA every day, and on both sides of the YMCA where there was nice trees and forest and stuff, all of that has been eradicated to put in extra apartments and stores and all that. And I was watching through the window at the Y and seeing them just clear cut. They weren't even cutting the trees to save them to use. They were just mowing them down with a bulldozer. And there was a sadness came over me. And follow that sadness to further effects. Just yesterday, I saw a fawn dead on the side of the road. because they've got no place to go. So we've lost respect somewhere. Respect. The sanctity of life is important. I'm Winston Cunningham. Thank you.